council members, how we're all a part of that group. And so I think I mentioned that via text, but since I'll be the liaison, I can be on the community board, and then the expectation is that the rest of the council will sit on the key leaders committee, and that meets less frequently, but still gives you the information about what's going on, so you can share that, amongst the group. So we'll need to come up with a date and time that's available for all of us to meet, so we can go over that intro with Elisa Stewart, but she needs about an hour and a half max, and so that's something that we can get together and figure out. But
she's willing to do it either Zoom or in person.
Yeah, she can do virtual or in person, whatever works best for us, but she just wants to make sure everybody has a good understanding of what CTC is and what they do.
Are we all allowed to be there?
Are we all what?
We can have her come to a work meeting. It doesn't have to be.
I just meant if it was on our own time.
I don't know.
If it was
No, it's a separate organization. You just ask them to be on
Well, we
the board.
just
Be aware of the
just the two.
Oh, it's for us.
Yeah, you know, we're all there.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to do that?
If it's advertised as a meeting,
Yeah.
That's the
board
Sure.
meeting.
It's not your meeting.
It's a
It's for the
workshop.
other groups, they've been invited to attend. Right?
Right.
Only a lawyer.
So along those lines then, I know Rosa was the Hispanic liaison. Have they replaced her yet, or did they have somebody else? Yeah.
No, I believe she's still there, and she still works in
She's
that role.
doing that role as well.
Yeah, and it's basically diversity overall, so, but yeah, she works a lot with the Hispanic community.
Okay, good.
And she just spoke with the Layton Youth Council, just
Okay.
now.
Oh, awesome. Good.
Yeah,
That's good.
Alyssa, yeah,
Okay.
so.
Then I guess as far as the tie-in with, gosh, the place over at the mall, the animals. Sequest, yes.
So that's something that she has in the works. The plan is to have an event in March. She doesn't have all the details just yet, but that's the plan, to kind of have a kickoff event, just, awareness really, keeping youth away from alcohol and drugs, that type of thing, because that's what CTC is about, and also suicide prevention. And so they have a partnership with Sequest in the mall, and there's a kickoff event she's planning in March. There's also a board meeting on February 25th that we're all invited to. It's kind of an all-day, like 9 to 3 type of thing, so whatever you can attend, you're welcome to, just to make sure that we're all connected. So the key leaders, the community board, and then she'll also announce more details about this event in March.
Okay, good. So I know that they've been working on that, and that was a good tie-in, really. And the fact that they're so willing to work with us on it is good. Meaning Sequest. Sequest was pretty excited when they introduced them. So that part's good. Okay, good report. Anybody else?
Valentine's hands.
You can outside out there? No, wait, we can't. Tyson is. Tyson's our,
Oh, yeah, let's hear about it.
liaison.
Get the details of that on Monday, I guess.
Will you?
It's next
I
Monday.
can tell them to you right now. Haven't changed in 21 years.
Is some band playing that you know?
Some band, yeah.
Yeah.
They get together once a year. So yeah, it's 7 to 9 on the 11th, which is Friday. 7 to 9:30 actually, but yeah. At Central Davis Junior High in the new gym, but it's
The new old
not
gym.
new anymore,
Yeah.
but it's still called the new gym, so.
The one with basketball on it.
A lot of fun. Stop by, say hi, leave, you don't have to, come watch there, come watch Gary dance.
Yeah.
That would be a sight.
Yeah. Well, you have to have some attraction.
Actually, we did, was it last year? The year before? Yeah, it's been a couple of years.
Yeah, that's 2 years ago.
Yeah, since then we all kind of went, so it's a good thing to show.
That's when we had the 100 out there.
Yeah, we had the
Yeah.
sign.
The centennial. All right, anything else?
I've got one, I mentioned it briefly to you guys, but the Miracle of Agriculture Foundation is going to be hosting an event on the 14th at Davis. military family.
Make
owned,
sure,
so.
yeah.
We won't, I mean, if
How would you know
civilians,
that?
will
Come in uniform?
they're still in discussion whether they'll ask for ID.
Oh, I see.
But really, Farmers
Yeah.
Feeding Utah's history is they won't turn people away if they show up. I'll have a flyer there that I'll send out to the council. Anyway, 14th, 2 to 5 p.m. We're looking at the east side of the parking lot, east of the building.
Yeah, east side of the Davis Weaver campus.
So 2 to 5. If you guys are willing to or interested in volunteering, let me know. Probably show up at 1 o'clock and put all of the food comes in bulk on pallets, and we put it into bags and set it up to be really efficient as the cars come through. A lot of you participated when it was here at
One
the
out here.
Layton Commons Park.
This was, the difference is this was prepackaged,
Yeah.
whereas now at
Yeah.
the college, we're gonna have to help.
This was all one box when it was here. We just gave everyone a box. Here, we're gonna put all of the food together that comes from different farmers, different areas. So, they would like us to secure either a forklift or a backhoe with forks. So I might be talking to
One of the two.
Yeah,
someone with that kind
maybe
of
somebody.
So,
Mine's, yeah, my battery now.
battery's dead. Yeah.
My hydraulics got a leak.
Yours is called Tonka.
Yeah.
Anyway, other than that, we do need to supply 10 to 12 tables. I don't know if we know anyone that might know anything about lifetime tables.
We can do that.
I have some.
I can have some, I
five or
can have some delivered
six.
to help us.
Okay.
10 or 12.
12 would be
Oh,
great if we're,
That means we don't have to pull ours out.
No, we have some rental ones that are, can just bring them and
appreciate that, Clint.
Just to add to that, not to yours, but to Clint, I apologize not making it to your.
Oh, you're good.
Well, I understand that part, but it was a neat thing, and I felt bad because it was, I mean, that, yeah, it's in Clearfield or whatever, but it affects us tremendously,
More pleasure.
and so that was, yeah, when I saw that, I thought, crap, I'm sitting in a meeting. The only time I got my phone out, I go. So, but anyway, that was neat, I mean, to have good business enlarged, doesn't matter where it's at, that's good for us, big time, so.
That's pretty cool then. Very good.
Go ahead, you can, I got a couple of.
No, I was just gonna say, so we, Gary sent a little action alert about a bill that was up on the Hill regarding railroad improvements and just trying to get better regulatory standards for the city and cities all around.
For the crossings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the past, the railroads had a chance to be able to basically, they're not really following the laws, but it sounded like, as it's currently written. And they can kind of delay out these improvements, and they require the cities to bear a lot of the costs, and they have to go through this big process to get approval, and they can basically leverage it however they want to leverage it. So they tried to, I think, work out some agreement with the railroads, but they weren't able to do it. So the majority leader actually put forward a bill to give the ability to make those determinations about who should be paying for this to UDOT, which would help us be able to streamline the process. And so Gary gave me some information, and I gave some testimony to that during the committee meeting, and a committee hearing that passed unanimously on the committee. So my guess is that it's not have any problem passing. And it will help our costs, it will help our timeframes, it should help us be able to get work done better. So. And then just keeping up with the bills coming out. We have our league meetings on every Monday where they go over all the current bills. And a lot of them are still kind of up in the air in terms of what they just it's kind of a race to the finish.
Yeah.
So, some of the stuff that we've been briefed on, the bills haven't even been made public yet. So there's a lot of negotiation back and forth. But if I ever, I know Councilman Morris was the same, if we ever need your help, we'll certainly ask for it, because you guys have contacts that we might not have, and the more people that can speak, the better. So I'll reach out to you if you feel like we need some assistance. That was it.
From my, we met, or the Ramp Commission met last week, 24th, whatever that was. And they've got their grant applications already from the budget year last year. And there are $2.3 million worth of,
Yes.
yeah,
Wow.
that there's money for, but they're scoring them right now, the commission. So their meeting, the next meeting is on the 14th as they continue to prioritize this. So
Who's chairing that now?
Rick is chairing it. So that was good. That was my first meeting with them. And then we were in the active transportation plan steering committee meeting when you were testifying. And there's the second meeting with that group. And coming up with our master plan for active transportation trails and connections throughout the city. It's almost time to take it to the public. From what Mayor was there, and they've got a survey and a really cool website that citizens and those who are participating go in and mark different areas that in this area we'd like this, or in this area we don't like that, or there's a problem here. And so that's going to go out to the public here in the next couple of weeks from what they said. So more to come on that, but I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I mean, the good news about this, it's very similar to how we went about our general plan for the city as far as keeping it updated and everything. And the neat thing about this is it's the same way. So, I mean, you've got your steering committee, and then we're going to get the public input. And the fact that it's interactive with the public is good, so that they can more or less kind of give us their wish list, like I say. But in the end, I mean, we still got to bring it back and really formulate a plan that's doable and one that is attainable, not just now, but with future growth in mind as well. So that's really what it's all about. I think that they've got a great group together and a lot of good feedback and discussion. So when it goes public, everybody can get on there and help get the word out so that we can get the best and the most amount of feedback on it. So we come up with the best plan. That's the way I see it. So, but yeah. Good report.
Thanks. That's all I have.
Okay. Those are good reports, you guys. Thank you very much, and I appreciate sharing with one another so that we are all informed as far as what's going on. Along those same lines, I know that the Chamber's in the same boat as far as they're coming up with their bill tracker and their support monitor position. They're kind of playing the waiting game too, or they had a big discussion on that. But, and then the Wasatch Regional Fund Council operates the same way. One takeaway that I got from there is the fact that the road use tax, that seems to be a pretty heavy fee, like when you register your car, but they're actually looking at a lot of different ways and they're comparing it nationally. And it seems like the push or the focus, not just here, but nationally as well, is kind of like the mileage, go by the mile. So it's not 100% yet, but I'm just kind of letting you know what the discussion there is and how that's going. I'll keep you informed as I learn about it as well. Okay. I think what we'll do on the rest of the meeting here, we're actually going to move our famous training to down again, just so we can make sure that we give Mr. Jackson enough time to kind of go over all of these properties that we need to deal with. And there's several of them, so I think it's a good use of time here. So, Steve?
Okay, so thank you for letting me be here tonight. Before you for approval is Resolution 22-07, approving some donation of property to UDOT as well as a sale of one property along the Highway 89 corridor. So as UDOT has been constructing the 89 project, they've built 3 interchanges now in Layton, Oak Hills, Gordon, and Antelope. They're in the middle of the construction at Antelope right now, but we need to clean up some property lines and things along the corridor. So there are 17 total properties. The property that is being sold to UDOT is this triangle right here, just south of Oak Hills Drive. There will be an off-ramp or an on-ramp to the freeway right there based on that interchange with some design changes that needed to occur on the project. They shifted this entire main line to the west slightly, so that's the reason that they're acquiring that property. All of the other properties are actually existing roadway right-of-ways, and so they're pretty incidental to the grand scheme of size and things, and they're already roads, so it didn't make a lot of sense to make you purchase a public right-of-way from another public entity. So that is the reason why the other ones are listed as donations, and you can see they around this is the Antelope Interchange over here, and so you see some of the off-ramp, on-ramp areas, they need to purchase some of that property. So you have a question?
I'm guessing now, on this 2950 east, down here at the bottom, to the left. And then it goes up to that right there.
Mm-hmm.
There's one of them in there that goes across a driveway in the front of the house.
Yeah, and those homes are either being removed by UDOT.
Okay, so they bought the home.
Yeah, they bought the homes,
okay.
and so
But I saw that
this
because
is,
it
no,
looked weird.
yeah, they're either taking out the home or they're relocating where their access is if the home is staying. But on these near the Antelope Interchange, some of them are being.
Yeah, that was the only one that looked, the rest were all in the road.
Yeah, so there's a few down here near the Gordon Interchange. This is Valley View Drive, and then the Gordon Interchange sits right here now. So the sale price of this property is $135,900. So that will be a payment that they'll make to the city, and then the remainder of these will be donated if approved. And then once the project is fully complete, they will come back and return all of the frontage roads to the city for our ownership and maintenance into the future. So, are there any questions, Clint? You guys?
Just like it's okay.
Yeah, some of these properties will be inside the frontage road and the 89 right of way, and so they won't necessarily give us all of that back, but anything that is the roadway, it will be ours to maintain in the future.
The nice thing about that is it'll be ours if we have a broken main, any other type of thing we want to do. We don't have to call them and get their permission and get
Yeah.
stalled forever and a day. We'll own it and be able to take care of it. So
Good.
it's just dotting i's and crossing t's basically for UDOT on their right of way.
Well, it looks like a good way to just clean up all the lines of ownership anyway, on both sides.
Yeah, so we've done several others of these previously, and this is, I think, hopefully close to the last set, but there could always be a few more, but this is the set they've sent to us to kind of get cleaned up. So are there any other questions I can try to answer for you?
And the typical that you mentioned that you don't want to sell it to another private, public entity, but that's what we're doing on that top one, so it's just, they're just remnants, and you are just, for good relations with UDOT.
Yeah, I mean, this one we're selling because it wasn't an actual public road. The other ones, they're not really changing that use, and so we felt like, I mean, if they didn't want to take it in their name, they could just leave it there and then mess up all the properties afterwards. And so it's really just more of a clerical thing to do it that way.
On the one that they're actually purchasing, that's actually, in my opinion, a good thing, because those that have been around here a while, that's the old Pioneer Park area, and they had to buy half of that, or most of it for this project anyway, so now that just cleans up that ownership, and we're not stuck with them taking care of a triangular piece that's full of shrub oak and
Yeah,
weeds.
they previously had purchased this whole piece here.
Right.
And then once they had some design changes that needed to take place, they realized they needed to purchase that as well. So,
Yeah, we actually, unless I'm misremembering, we actually horse traded that piece for the fire station piece at no cost. So we that's kind of how we dealt with when a piece has value, is we try to, if there's a electrical horse trade, but that was a real benefit for the city to not have to acquire that piece. So,
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's a.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that'll be a little,
Oh, they were upset back then.
well, I know, back then, but I mean, all the people that moved over and have all their,
Yeah.
out beyond their fence line, different things, it's, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's
They don't.
under struggle. Okay.
all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hey, one thing I should have mentioned anyway, Terry, just so you know, hats off to your crew. I had a call in on the water situation and boy, they jumped right on it. And today I just sent a text saying that our digital sign didn't work up on the dip at the east end. And then before I came back down through there, it was fixed. So, yeah, quick response, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, wow, that was quick. We're gonna end up with some training, you guys.
Somebody talk.
Do we have a filibuster?
Unless Mr. Price can stall quite a while, since he's up next.
No filibusters.
Read Dr. Seuss.
Okay, I'll harass you.
Yeah, you should. Keeps me on my toes. You need a wake up full of fire alarm.
Well, thank you guys. Today we would like to continue our discussion about the photography issue in the open spaces around the Welker Trailhead. And since we last met, we've had some interest from the council in bringing this back as instead of an ordinance, as a policy. And so we wanted to share some thoughts that we had with you on that. I'm going to go ahead and open these two documents if I can manage. Just one sec. I'm sorry. The point of the exercise here is that the two ways of approaching this are not that different. So if we approach this project as an ordinance, like we've talked in the past, a lot of the same language, most of the same language, is transferred over into a city policy. The biggest difference is in how we approach it with the public. So instead of being a law, it is managed as a policy for the city, and in either case, our department would be very active in talking with people and helping present this. But the basic approach is fairly similar. We wanted to go through it. If you had any questions about the policy, we've talked about it before. Basically, we define the open spaces in both instances. We define the regulations that apply to it. We have included, there's a couple new areas, and I'll go through them. In the policy, we've included a restoration area definition. And that just defines that when an area is damaged, the city has the ability to set that aside and rehabilitate the native grass. And that would be a good addition to the ordinance as well, if we chose to go that way.
And we already have the right to do that.
We do.
Just under our Division of Health, Safety, Welfare kind of things, but this again makes it a little more public and more formal in that announcement.
And so, and again, I don't want to spend too much time on this. You've got other things to think about, but the approach is similar. The two are not that dissimilar. We feel that if we wanted to go with a policy at first, we could approach it that way and see how it works. We can always take the next step and turn it into an ordinance. But it's more difficult to take an ordinance and go backwards to a policy.
So when we take, unless the council objects, I think it might be good to walk through some of those policies, even though they're similar to what we talked about before. Just the general framework of them, like the permitting system, what are the COS areas, or how do we intend to manage it if somebody's violating that, or, I'm not trying to be presumptuous to the council, but, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Please.
I hate to change up the whole thing, but the issue I believe we've identified is not so much commercial activity or photography or whatever. The issue is damage to the open spaces. Is that correct? So if we do a policy or an ordinance, is there any way that we can tighten it up to address that as opposed to tying it to a commercial activity, tying it to photography, tying it to some act in that sense? Because it's less about the act and it's more about the damage to the property. So even if you have, if you decide you want to bring 100 kids out there and do some racing or whatever, that damages the property or could damage the property, but is not tied to photography. So still, this would not meet, the full extent of the need. I'm just wondering about the commercial piece, and I know we haven't gotten to that yet, but that's really what the reason was this was brought. But the real reason is because of damaging the natural habitat. So I'm just wondering if we can craft it to address that as opposed to it being a specific, activity such as photography.
Yeah.
I know that's hard, but
No, I think it's logical. I have an opinion or a comment, not well informed it is, but Dave may have, you're used to that, right? But I think the reason we've, at least to this point, from the staff side, looked at commercial and photography is because that has been the predominant source of the negative impact on the environment. It typically hasn't been the school kids or those kind of groups that have consistently, they come in and they come out, but the frequency has been clearly dominated by the photography and commercial. And so what our feeling has been, again, this is what we want to bring it to you and get your direction, is to make sure that we're addressing those issues clearly and regulating them a little more tightly through the permitting system. But then we have the other kind of provisions that Dave just talked about. We have the ability, if there's damage to any area for any reason, to block that off and regulate it, to sweep in the less intense uses and less frequent uses if there's a need, as opposed to the opposite approach of focusing on all uses without specifically addressing the two that we know have been the biggest issue. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's been our thought. We're happy to adjust. Now, is that a fair statement, Dave, based on your experiences?
No, that's
predominantly these are the two that are creating the damage primarily.
And you're right, exactly on the mark. It's the damage to the environment that is a concern for the city, along with the impact that activity is having on the neighborhood. We don't want to discard that element of it. The reason, and again, one additional reason we moved in this direction is we have the ability to stay out of the meadow. And we are using that as often as possible, the exploration of meadows and the appropriate and educational and just for pure enjoyment, to be able to have, our kids go out and explore nature. And so we felt that, again, as Alex has said, that we wanted to try to get our hands around the things that are causing us the most trouble, to limit that activity and still allow people to enjoy these spaces. So that's why we're moving in this direction.
Proposing to move in that direction.
Well, like you guys have stated, I mean, you can start out one way, and if you have to strong arm it later, you can, but there's no use starting out strong arm. And I know that's probably not the best word to use, but in essence, that's where we're going with this, right?
Right.
What you're recommending?
And an important thing to remember is as we go through this, we have a tendency to get caught up in the details of the permitting process and all that, which is important. But the permits are only for a very narrow segment of the people that want to use this area. If you have a family or kids or a school class that wants to come up, they will never even be concerned with this, because we want to keep these meadows open and control the damaging activities.
And then like Alex mentioned, we're also trying to take care of the damage with all the homeowners. I mean, and I don't mean physical damage as much as just the crowd, that all the cars parked willy-nilly, and, it's just a mess down there in the road, not to mention where that mess goes. And so by permitting things, hopefully we don't get as much as what we have.
Well, it's a controlled use is what you're going towards.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's really
it's,
what you need to do, so that it doesn't damage, but I mean, it's
Yeah.
about preserving the natural habitat, as well as allowing all of the general public to use it as the original intent is,
And
with control of the specialized usage.
and it's always comes down to that balance.
Yeah.
Walking that tightrope in parks and recreation.
Well, and you're always stuck with, okay, do I close this, because it's dead, so I can grow more, or do I just leave it dead? And, it's, you have the ability to do a lot of things without this. This just cleans it up and creates a conformity, something that hopefully you can control a little better.
And Clint, please.
Yeah, no, I appreciate this. I was not comfortable banning things, and those discussions that we had early on, even though I was upset with the props and you've had this chat with disrespect of the area. I'm with Bettina in that you've already closed off that area. It's now under restoration. You've got some signs up. We chatted about maybe creating some sort of a decorative barrier that wouldn't allow people to take their horse trailers and their pianos and stuff out into the field to take the pictures. Wouldn't that, what you're currently doing, so I'm talking about a step before even that we've already closed it off, cordoned it off, we've got signs up, we've got this barrier. People now know that we're aware that the city's concerned about this area, what's going on. The photographers now know, you released the commercial ones, I'm sure they've chatted. Let's see what happens. I mean, I think we've already started this correction without having to do this officially. It's my opinion, at least right now.
I still like the idea of having some,
A policy.
it's like the Boweries, we rent them, and so when people rent them, then it's theirs. It's kind of like, so you've limited the space because you had to, but usually what happens, anywhere when you say you can't go here, well, then they create another path, and so all you're doing is pushing them to another area down there. And so I don't know that you've alleviated the problem. You've stopped them from being at this spot. But you haven't stopped them from being other places. And like I say, the part of the problem just isn't damage. It's I don't know the word I want to use, just the amount of people that are down there at one time trying to do whatever. It's not all photography, but it's, that's the obvious one. And so a policy where you can help regulate that, better than just say, here we are again. All you're going to do is just move them over to where they can go, and then that'll be dead.
I'm with you, Dave. I think it's a good middle ground. I mean, I think we all, when the ordinance, we had that discussion about the ordinance, and I think all of us kind of felt like maybe we don't really want to go that far just yet. But I think that if the staff's telling us that there's a problem with commercial photography, and that's what's been the driving force of this, then a policy is a good opening statement to saying, look, there's an issue here, we can remediate this land, this particular piece of ground, but we want it to be for the whole city, that there's some policies that you have to follow for us to be able to do that. And we would still be doing all the gatekeeping, and Parks and Rec would still be all doing everything that a policy would entail that they do as part of their job anyway. So I think we owe it to understand that there is an issue with the commercial photography to go beyond just putting up some signs. I think having a policy does take the step where we at least let them know that this is an issue.
And it doesn't take away their ability to use it.
Right.
It just,
Right.
they can't use it willy-nilly.
Right.
You know, they have to, fit in. And there's nothing ever wrong with being organized.
I mean, without a rule, without a policy or an ordinance, I mean, there's nothing that's preventing them from continuing what they're doing. They just could do it in a different part of the city, and we have no policy to say that the city is making a statement saying we don't allow that. So we may help by cordoning off that portion of this area. They go to a different part of the city, and that's where all the photographers start to take pictures, and then we have back up with traffic there. Whereas if we have just a nice introductory policy saying, here's what we're doing with commercial activities in these areas that we consider to be open space, and follow it the best you can and see how it goes. Like you said, I mean, we can always move it up, but I think we have to do a little bit more than just cordoning off some places. I think it needs to be citywide. So I agree with you, Dave.
And if I may, this is the policy is business as usual for us. We have similar policies in our department that guide how we utilize our park space, our fields. Right. Without that policy of our field usage policy, our Ellison Park would be destroyed. So we use the policy as the tool that allows us to make opportunities for people. And so the policy is in no way meant to shut down things. It's to guide us so that the proper activities are happening, and that those activities are happening at the appropriate interval.
To regulate the activities that city property we're regulating in a very...
The other part of this is that we haven't talked about is to be able to take my family down there and take a photograph, a portrait, is an appropriate use of that space.
I hope so.
If it's done correctly. And we, monitor that activity, and the permitting policy that we've looked at right now and the application process allows us to do that. We believe it's a good start, and that's why we're here today to talk to you.
So have you taken it a step further then and figured out, I guess, the form or anything like that folks have to go through?
Sure. It's rough.
That's okay. If it's not ready, don't push
show,
it, that's fine.
We want your feedback,
Please bear with us.
The policy language and the application form, and these are just ideas. Dave's work with IT, try to identify, and make it similar to some of the other electronic reservation forms that we have for other boundaries and other kinds of things. So it's not wildly different.
Right.
It's familiar. And
so does the department have this kind of policy-making ability now, or does it take action from the council?
No, we have policies that guide a lot of our activities. It's the only way that we can appropriately and uniformly deal with the public.
The trouble on this one, because of the extensive nature of it in terms of the demand and the obviously the public involvement, that sometimes at such a scale it was really important to be able to convey, this is a decision that elected officials are making, it's not a staff department
No, I
policy.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
Because it's already been discussed.
yeah, but typically, yeah, we,
Well, it's a blessing to the photographer as well. Well, I mean, right now, or previous, they all go down there and they're probably fighting for space, and they get the early bird gets the worm, and now there's a little organization to it. You know, it's my time to be here type thing, you know. Maybe that may cause a few problems, but, you know, it's.
Clint, you want to make a comment?
My question, once again, I just feel like we've got an issue in this one part, and we're making this big, now we're making a policy for the whole city. We already have policies for parks. So my question then is, in this area, this is the place to take the pictures. It's not like you got more places in that area. This is the place. That's why it's trampled. It's the place to take pictures. Once that is restored, and we have a permitting process, we're still taking pictures there. A commercial photographer can still take pictures there.
Sure.
In this area, do we now determine how many people could be there? Do we determine at what times? And they come in, so before we had you mentioned that it wasn't a reservation system, it was a permitting thing that now it seems like, now it's a permit. You go in and say, hey, I'm gonna take photos of this group. There's 30 of us. And you say okay, or don't say okay, depending on what you feel like that amount of people. I don't know how you're gonna determine that. But once they have that paper, like Dave says, now I can go down and take pictures. Nobody else can. During this time, it's me. If there's an issue, I'm calling Parks and Rec, and we're taking care of it.
But you're mitigating the problem of all the props. That's what's been the other issue.
The props and the sheer number, I mean,
Yeah.
even the photographers that we've talked about, or talked with, have said, there's just too many photographers down there.
So then what is the policy going to be for that area?
So I think the key bit of information that we need to discuss tonight is the theory of carrying capacity.
Yeah.
And it happens in our athletic fields, and it happens here as well. And so the carrying capacity is how often can we have a group, or, you know, based on size or number of groups, how often can we have them in this area? And that is determined by our staff's professional experience in this area. And so we will determine, right now we're saying nobody, because we have to restore the meadow. In a year from now, I would like to take down those fences.
Sure.
And allow kids back out into the meadows and let them enjoy the space. And then allow a permit at the frequency that is appropriate for the area.
The distinction between a reservation, which I guess you just get it,
Right.
and a permit, which you can say no.
Yeah, it's a permit.
And the
You're
permit,
not permitted, so yeah, right.
and again, the permit,
It's not
so
like the Bowery though, where it's a reservation
No,
where
it's a permitting
it's
system.
already,
Well, even the
I think that's
we
Bowery,
just have to be
we have,
based on,
there's a criteria to the Bowery too. So you can say, no, you can't, because you can't do this.
But there are factors beyond that in a permit, because we have professional staff who can tell
Right.
us what a carrying, I don't know what the carrying capacity is.
Right.
You guys do. So that's why you're regulating this through this permitting process, through just a policy of the city. I think that alleviates the concern about trampling, because if you guys see issues, then you can.
and we're not banning commercial.
We're not banning commercial photography, we're just regulating it
Yeah.
because we've seen an issue. So-
the idea, we haven't got there, but yeah, these are all proposals.
Sure.
This is great
Yeah.
feedback. The discussion is that when I think the team had raised this earlier, is when I come in for a permit, what kind of questions am I going to be asked by the staff? And so those questions are key to be able to ascertain, yeah, you want to go in this area, okay, tell us how many people, you're hoping to bring props, are you going to do this, are you going to do that, and then that helps us to be able to say, that doesn't work, or it does work, or maybe to be able to say, you know, Mr. Jensen, that it doesn't work here, but another lovely place in the city to take that kind of a picture is a Commons Park. I'm making that up, right? And to direct people and say, it's not that you can't take a nice picture, but given the condition in this area, we'd really suggest you go here, and there's a beautiful spot, makes sense? And to be able to just manage that, is that fair, Dave? Those questions and how they're written and how the training on our side to make sure we have people that are handling those, that can ask the right questions and then make those decisions is really important.
And is that what's provided here?
Yeah,
If you
so-
go down, we'll see those.
We'll walk through this again. I apologize, it's a rough
We
draft.
don't really have it yet.
But we think that it gives you an idea of the direction we think is a good way forward, and you can tell us what you think. So, as with our other permits in the city, one of the most important things to us is that we can be responsive to the people that are applying for permits. There's nothing worse than filling out a paper and then not hearing back. And so we've made this as easy to fill out as possible. And so we want to go through and get the basic information, and then we ask them to make two choices. We're going to look at two different possible applications, and they're both photography. So they would choose photography, and the first one we'll look at is Case Creek Parkway. If they make those two choices and hit next, it will give them a unique set of questions. And so we'll show them where the trailhead is, and we'll let them know that right now the city is not accepting permits for this area. But we also make a recommendation that they can come to our city parks and take these same kind of pictures. The parks are built to handle this activity. It lets them know that it's not been created, a permit has not been created, or an application, and to call us. If, at this point, they chose photography and Andy Adams Reservoir, they would come to a different set of questions. They would show them the location, a map of the area, where they can and can't go, and that can be customized. So we could shut off part of the park or part of the reservoir. It lets them know that we are taking applications, and it asks that will they give us 10 days, and that's what we think is the best and appropriate time right now. And then it asks the appropriate questions for that location, and then you submit. And we are committing that once they hit submit, we will say thank you. A permit has been created. These are the things that we are going to look at when we accept or reject this permit. One of those is carrying capacity. And we have the ability in the software that guides our pavilion rentals to set timing. So at a year from now, or even 9 months from now at Case Creek, we could say we're going to accept one large group a week. And the software will allow us to do that. You raise your hand if I say something wrong.
You're correct.
And so even before it gets to us, the people applying know what their options are. And then once it comes to us, we evaluate it, but we already know that carrying capacity issue has been handled. And we have set that before they even got to this point. And so at Andy Adams Park, because of the large parking lot and the area that is well, it's not as native, it gets a lot of use from a lot of different people. We have a higher carrying capacity. And so, we can handle larger groups and more frequent groups. But these are the key things that we still look at.
So, Dave, question, we had I think it was the second time we talked about this. We brought up hypothetically the Bloxes and the Morrises get together, and we've got 25 family members each. We decide we're going to take a family photo. It's not commercial. What is? I'm just talking about that area because that's where the issue is.
No, and I closed the document. I can reopen it, but basically we have improved the definition of photography. Formal photography is what we've defined it as, and that includes professional.
How do we know that?
Well, it says that in the.
But so is there going to be a sign down at that trailhead that says, if you're going to take photos here,
permit
don't be a little facetious, but how?
It will say.
Is it family? Is it commercial? Is it?
It will. Well, the policy says that professionals and formal photography, where a large group or a group is set out and they are in the area for this
the sole purpose of a picture.
I'm not sure that you're never gonna be able to really regulate every instance. So I mean, I think the staff would just have to make sure that those kinds of things aren't happening consistently.
But could the commercial photography be during graduation season, every family's down there taking pictures? And during the dances, the homecoming dance and the sweetheart dance, whatever dances are happening, they're down there taking the pictures. None of that's commercial. It's families for the most part, and they're.
I think what we, yeah, great question.
Good question.
Yeah, what we found in, correct me if I'm wrong, but through the research of how other entities that have some of this space, like Red Butte Gardens and some of the state parks and so forth, is they have begun to use that formal versus informal photography as a definition that fits better than commercial or non-commercial, because again, you can have professional photography with large impacts, but there's no money exchanging hands. But still, if the idea is if you're going down there to take a formal setting, as opposed to a selfie or, hey, we're down there hiking and hey, you two kids get over there, let's take a picture of you. Those kind of random things, but if it's a planned event where you're whether you're bringing small props or large props and everybody's dressed up and ready to go, it's a big impact. We're defining that as formal photography. So the hope was, and it won't catch all of them, but because we were afraid that people would say, well, I'm not getting paid. Yeah, it's actually a professional photographer and he's going to do 3,500 shoots, but he's not getting paid. So
Or hand the phone to Clint, you do it.
I'll do it.
If you're not.
But I guess once again, we've been told it's commercial photography because we've had neighbors tell us it's commercial photography, but have we gone down there and actually watched? And,
Yes.
and is it commercial photography?
Yes.
Are these the people that are down there?
They are down there, for the majority of them are down there on a regular basis. You know, that I know that photographer will be down there on Friday night because she's been there every Friday night for the 3 weeks, and maybe I haven't seen them all those times, but the neighbors are also watching this. And so we believe that is the people that are abusing the area.
Well, the nice thing about a policy, we can change it easier.
Right.
Okay, if we find out something different, you know, and I agree with Clint, you're never gonna, the dummy like me, I'm gonna take my family down there and not realize that there's a formal policy. It's kind of like when hey, let's go have lunch in the park, and we sit down at the Bowery, and then all of a sudden, people start showing up. And going, what's going on? Well, we rented it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we need to leave then. So, I mean, we're not gonna be able to make anything unless we put a ranger down there in a little house, and, there's gonna be a lot of things going on that are, I don't know how they fit, but I think for the most part, we recognize the people that abuse it the most.
Right.
And in doing that, it allows us to curtail enough, hopefully, activity that we can.
Are
we still got grass.
In Layton Commons Park, is that on your list of open spaces?
No, the open spaces are limited to 4 right now, the area we're talking about. We will have another very beautiful nature area by the new development at the bottom of the dip. We have 16 acres that will be left in a pristine state. And we would like to make sure that we have this umbrella over that as well. And then we included the trails because we do see some photography along the trails.
I just, personally, I guess I'm just talking for myself, is I don't want to undue burden on people trying to make a living because we are, once again, worried about one area. That's where the issue is, that's where the problem's been. And creating burden in other areas because of this one area, I still have a problem with that. And that's just me. I know we're trying to alleviate, you're trying to mitigate that area and regrow it, which I'm all for. I just feel like the rest of the city.
No, it's not the rest.
Or the other areas.
Yeah, the other areas like this that are native in nature. And we could reduce this down to this area, and that would solve this problem.
Yeah, but it'll crop up elsewhere.
But my point, once again, will it, we don't know, it's just area. But I'll be quiet about it now, but that's just where I'm.
Well, I mean, you know, it's like the park here. We look at, you know, over the course of the summer, you know, this is the place to come get pictures.
Yeah, it's the place, it is the place.
And if any area got hammered, like by the ducks or something, then maybe they close off that bench that's against the tree because there's no grass there. You know, and so, you know, it happens and you adjust to it. And like you said, we're not gonna solve all the problems because you can't. You know.
I'm gonna come back to my original statement that I remember making out in the council room, and that is, you know, we wanna make sure we do this right. We wanna make sure we're covering all of our bases. So if you guys are not comfortable at this point, then that's okay. These guys can go back and tweak it a little bit more. We can, or if you wanna give them direction now, we can go either way, but I know we got, you know, some other items here that we probably need to address, and I don't want to cut this short because this is an important item for us to be determined.
I respect what you're saying, Clint, but I think sometimes it's good to learn from that kind of experience, that we had a problem in this one geographical area. But sometimes by learning from that, we protect our other areas. And I think, I mean, I'm naive to making municipal policy, but outside of that, I don't like forming policy for just one geographical area because we could find, you know, a citizen might come and say, well, what about my backyard? It's also an open space. Why don't you want to protect that as well? And if this is going to be closed for a year, then we could see that really quick as they get more creative for spaces and look at all, you know, just the side of a trail, like Dave mentioned. I think it's good policy to have a soft approach, a permitting process, but it protects all of our areas. And that new area is going to be really accessible.
Yes.
So having something in place for that, I think, is going to be good to start with.
And we'll cut this, you know, off, but that new area will have the same exact things happening. We have a parking lot that is made to service the natural area, and the kids and families want to come. If photographers begin to flock there, it's going to back up into the neighborhood. And like I said, we'll let you look at this, you know, offline. This is the definition of a photography session. We'll get this for you. But in my mind, it basically comes down to one thing. This allows us, this policy gives us more tools to manage the area. If we don't have this policy in place, I'm afraid I am back to a point where it's either I take down the fence and let kids enjoy the meadows and also photographers, and I don't have any restrictions on that. And so they basically just use it until I have to put the fence back up. We're hoping that this policy allows us to manage it in a way that families, kids, and photographers can use that area for the long haul. So we appreciate your guidance on this.
Does the word formal, can that be confused when you think about like dances? You're
Being
thinking about
dressed up
formal
versus
dress.
not dressed up.
Would the word organized work?
Sure.
Organized
That
photography?
might be a better fit.
Yeah.
So we'll keep refining it and of course bring this back to you, that's okay. And whatever final format needs to be in eventually, make sure
Right.
with it. Okay.
And just keep it down to 3-syllable words.
For Dave.
Yeah.
Earlier, you also mentioned the possibility of expanding that parking lot.
Yes.
And so when you come back, if you could speak to that at some point as well.
Yeah, that's in our budget request this year, so we'd love to talk to you. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Guess what?
I tried.
There, yeah.
I tried.
Okay,
That's confident.
we do have an item on the agenda that is a closed door discussion, so that's gonna have importance over a training session for the time being.
We can actually include some training in that closed meeting, so just some of the principles involved. So
Okay.
I think it'll be great. I don't know how you do that, but you do it every single day.
Okay, well then that's the case.
What a great segue.
If that's the case, then I'll entertain a motion to go into the closed door meeting.
That'd be great.
Okay, Roberts. And then seconded by Watson.
Everyone out to our Layton City Council meeting for February 3rd. Special note that we do have a delayed start time of 7:13, and that was due to a closed door meeting that we needed to be in. So I appreciate the patience of those here in the audience. And with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Councilmember Tyson Roberts to conduct our pledge and prayer for us.
All rise, please, and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, as we gather here today to conduct the business of this great community that we feel privileged to live in, we ask for thy direction as we make decisions and oversee the business here, that thou will direct us to keep in mind those who we serve and make decisions that will best impact those citizens of this great community. We're grateful, Father, for all those members of our community that provide service at the sacrifice of them. We pray that thou will bless those servants, the first responders, police, fire, that they will be watched over, kept safe as they watch over us. We pray for thy Spirit to be with us, and we do this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Okay, Council, we have several sets of minutes that need to be approved. So we'll look for any corrections that need to be taken place, or if not, then a motion to accept. And if you could, go ahead and read them out. You can just do them in order.
I move that we accept or that we approve the meeting minutes, work meeting August 19th, 2021, Layton City Council meeting November 18th, 2021, Layton City Council meeting December 2nd, 2021, and Layton City Council meeting December 16th, 2021.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and second that we accept the minutes as written for the 4 meetings. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to our municipal announcements. So council, anyone who is involved with any of the ancillary departments, please let me know if there's any announcements you'd like to share with the public.
I have a few announcements. First, I wanted to acknowledge that February is Black History Month, and for those in Davis County, which is us, there is a senior services newsletter put out by the Davis County Health Department. And so any of you in the aging community will get a copy of that. And I was fortunate to write an article, and I did recognize some of our Layton residents. So I invite you to look for that as it comes in the mail. Also, Davis Arts Council, their small stage series concert this month is going to be virtual, and that's going to be premiering tomorrow. It will be on YouTube, on their YouTube channel, which is just Davis Arts Council on YouTube, and that will be at 7 p.m. The artist is Sadie Anderson. And then finally, on Pitch Performing Arts, we spoke earlier in the year about Legally Blonde. That performance will begin tomorrow as well, and that will be going through February 26th. So you're welcome to go online and purchase those tickets or go to the box office if you'd like to see that.
Just out of curiosity, who are some of the folks that you acknowledged in there?
Well, I acknowledged Dr. Jackie Thompson. She was just recently appointed the Assistant Superintendent for Davis County Schools, and she lives here in Layton. I got the privilege of acknowledging my parents and some of the contributions they've made over the course of their life here, as well as Major Carl Walters, who was a former Tuskegee Airman, and he and his wife have lived here for over 40 years.
Very good. Well, thank you.
Yep.
Tyson, do you have an announcement on the Sweetheart Dance?
Sorry. Yeah, Valentine's Dance, February 11th at Central Davis Junior High Gymnasium. Great music from a local band. Dancing.
Loco. Okay, very good. Okay, well, council, thank you for making those announcements, and hopefully everyone will, take the opportunity to look and attend a lot of those events. Okay, we do not have any verbal petitions, so I'll now open it up for our citizens' comments. So anyone who wishes to address the council, you're welcome to step up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. And hopefully the comments are brief.
Appreciate you. My name is Dora Louise Brown. My address is 343 South, 750 East. I have not stood before you since last October. That was when I again requested intervention for the people who are living in the Cedarwood Trailer Park. After that presentation, I was told by Mr. Jensen that I was doing more damage than good. He invited me and my fellow advocates to meet with him in private and that our concerns would be addressed. And I'm here tonight to report how our concerns are being addressed. At this moment, an update. At this moment, a few remaining evicted families of the first phase are still packing. Most of them are gone. With the exception of 2 families, all have or will abandon their homes. We've helped some of them find alternative places to live. We're still working with the rest. We have until March 1st, 24 days away, to get them all out. They are leaving uncompensated. They go with a small relocation check to help with their moving expenses. You may ask why they didn't all move their trailers. Their trailers are legally too old to move, and there is nowhere to move them to. You may ask why they didn't move out sooner. They were lied to and led along about the park's closure and many other things, which left them unprepared when the truth was finally forced out. So they will lose their homes and their equity on March 1st. Mr. Winkle is fortunate to be able to draw from his family's fortune to build this project. Even more fortunate for him, the city has generously made available to him hundreds of thousands of dollars in RDA money, state mitigation money, staff time, and other resources. But the Cedarwood families, they are contributing the most because they are involuntarily giving their entire life savings to Mr. Winkle's project. I want you to let that sink in for a minute. Everything they own is tied up in their homes, and they are now leaving them behind uncompensated. And this is not over. These evicted families represent about 25% of the population of Cedarwood community. Mr. Winkle must still rid himself of about 50 families. Since this present process has worked so cheaply and so well for him, there's no reason to believe he won't repeat it. There are ways to financially help these families. We have brought some ideas to the staff, but they were not used and we don't know why. They might say these methods are not viable. We don't agree with that. I have left my card on your desk and invite you to speak with our Citizens Advocate group. We want to learn more from you, and we want to talk with you about these issues. I admire elected city officials. I've been one myself, and I know that you can do something about this. You are, in fact, the only entity that stands between these families, these citizens, and financial ruin. If you choose to leave it in the hands that presently dictate it, the rest of these families will also be forced to donate their life savings to Mr. Winkle's project. We ask you again to please protect these families. The city needs less management and more citizen-responsive leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, anyone else? Seeing that there's no other public comment at this time, we'll go ahead and proceed then with item number 5, which is our consent item. Tonight, we only have one item to deal with, so I'm going to turn the time over to Mr. Terry Coburn to present and identify properties for the Utah Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Mayor. In the work meeting, Mr. Jackson, our city engineer, explained the properties in the process. Tonight, I bring before the council Resolution 2207, a resolution approving Layton City's donation and sale of identified properties to the Utah Department of Transportation for the construction of the Highway 89 project. Various locations throughout Layton City along frontage roads adjacent to Highway 89. The Utah Department of Transportation is currently in the process of acquiring several properties necessary to complete the construction of Highway 89. Some of the properties within Layton City will be used for public purposes and improvements, as well as for use within the city's right-of-way. UDOT desires to purchase one property as well as acquire via donation 16 additional properties from the city, which are currently public roads. UDOT seeks these properties to allow them to complete the construction of the frontage road system. Upon completion of Highway 89 project, UDOT will dedicate the new frontage road system to the city. Basically, this is UDOT dotting their I's and crossing their T's, straightening up their right-of-way legally. We are happy that when it's done, the frontage road systems will be turned over to the city. We'll own them. That gives us the right to repair any utility problems we have or anything without having to get permission. We will own the roads. Staff recommends the council adopt Resolution 2207.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions regarding these properties? I know we had a very good lengthy discussion in the work meeting, but certainly if there's any additional questions, feel free to ask. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Seeing if there's none, then being that that's our only item on the consent item, I'll look for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that the City Council approve Layton City's donation and sale of identified properties to the Utah Department of Transportation for the construction of Highway 89, Resolution 22-07, various locations throughout the city along frontage roads adjacent to Highway 89.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved in second that we approve the consent item as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That pretty much brings our meeting to a conclusion. Unless there's any unfinished business that anybody needs to bring before me, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to conclude this meeting, and we can then, in 10 minutes, convene in another meeting. Or 5 minutes, I guess.
I move that we close the meeting.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved in second. All agree? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for those folks that have come to tonight's council meeting, and I hope you enjoy your evening.